there, welcome to our channel. I'm Vic.
I'm Nick.
And we're Envy Board Gaming. And today we're looking at Bad Company. This is a game designed by Christian Utsby, Kenneth Mind, and Eilif Svensson.
Nice.
This is thank you. This is a game published by Aporta Games. It's for 1 to 6 players. Nick is going to go through how you play, and then we're going to give our review.
Let's do it. Hey everyone, welcome to the table I set up for a 2-player game here of Bad Company. So I'm going to give you a little overview of how you're playing this game. It's a pretty simple teach, I think. First, we're going to set up for 2 players. So this cop card goes here. You're going to have 2 of these players here and 2 of your recruiters right there. So this board over here, these are 2 separate boards. This board is going to be tracking how you get to upgrade these die rolls, because every turn you're going to take 2 dice out of the 4 at minimum, perhaps even all 4 if you're the boss. So this is how to upgrade those. So whenever you adjust this, whenever you pay the money shown here, you're going to move up a level and acquire cards to make these numbers more valuable. They will trigger off more things when they are rolled. So the concept is there's one boss on a turn. That's the first player. They're going to roll all these dice. So 4 of these yellow gold dice and 1 of these black ones. So on their turn, they're going to roll dice. And that person that rolls is going to be able to adjust these pairs in any order they wish. So they could do a 7 and a 6. They could do a 5 and an 8, and so on. This will stay here. This will be how much the cop car is going to move, the police car. So let's say they did 5 and 8 right there. The boss is going to trigger off both of these gang members, the 5 and the 8. The other players at the table are going to trigger off just one of those pairs, an 8 or a 5. So if I'm the boss of this round, I'm going to trigger off my 5 and my 8. So I will get this resource and this many coins. So I'll take the 2 coins for the 5, and then I will take this resource, which is always going to be represented by a check mark. However, I assign this check mark to that symbol. So I have a couple cards here that I started with to start the game and set up. There was different ways to do this, but you're essentially just going to put this down on that symbol to cover this up. Alternatively, you can do a task. So you have those at the corners at the 2 and the 12, and you can do that. So that when those fill up, you have a reward as well. But logically, as long as you can, you're probably going to go for the cards. So I'd put that mitt on one of the cards, these gloves. And that becomes closer to fulfilling that. The whole goal of the game is to fulfill those and get victory points at the top right, and also sets of symbols on these cards. So this symbol is heisting. You're heisting gold. It was a gold heist, and this one is for diamonds. If you ever have a majority in any of those symbols, you're going to gain a necklace of that symbol. There are 4 different types of goods up here. So let's say I did the gold one before anyone else. I will take this necklace, get a victory point. Every time you get one of these necklaces, you get a victory point, and you can put them on any of these people in your gang. So if you want to play the odds, maybe you go for the 7, put that gold necklace on that 7, and anytime I were to use an ability with my 7 gang member, I would also get a victory point, as long as this person is still wearing that necklace. Once you put the necklace on, it cannot move. It can be stolen from you, though. If anyone were to have the new majority, so if they were to have 3 gold and pass you, not just tie you, they have to pass you, they can steal that and they'll get the victory point. So that's what those do. These are also worth points at the end of the game as well. So like I said, on a turn, you roll all this, and then you activate, as I shown you, where I got my 2 coins, and I got my my resource. And after that, we're going to end turn. So at that phase, you can first do completed heists. If you had any heists you can complete in turn order, you can resolve those and draw new ones, because you're always going to have up to 2. You can see also, if you resolve it, some of them have an effect right then. So this would be gain a loot card. Loot cards are just little boons. So this one is I can activate two gang members instead of 1 when I'm not the boss. I can do that at any time action. As long as I'm not the boss, I can spend this and then activate both those results, not just one of them. So that's one thing you can do, is complete a heist. At the end of the turn, you can also you can spend these coins to move up and recruit a new upgrade, essentially, for these dice. So if you do that, you would spend 3 coins. I don't have them, but let's just say I did. I spent 3, and I move up, and now I can draw 3 of these cards here and pick the one I want to keep and slot it on the number at the top right. So if I did want to upgrade the 7 because maybe it really depends, because what it's showing in this card, there's victory points to end the game right here. There's what resource will trigger off when you do that, or what action, and then where you slot it. So if I put the 7 here, I would go ahead and put that right there where the line is. And now you can see that this has been improved because now it gives me a flashlight and a glove. This one would give me a mask, which is another type of resource, as well as this one. But there are other ones that even move your car. Let's see. There's one that moves your car, which I'll explain why that's good. But that would be upgrading. That's another thing you can do at the end of your turn. Again, in turn order. So, and then lastly, we would look at how much is the cop car going to move. Well, they're going to move 0. This die is either 0, 1, or 2. So we don't have to worry about it. That is the result at the end of the round, and they're not going to move at all. So this board, what's the big deal if the cop passes you? What's the big deal of it moving? So one thing is you're trying to get these bonuses. As you move, you're going to hit these different bonuses on the board. So loot or money. But if the cop does that before you do, you don't get any reward for that. On top of that, if the cop finishes before you do, you're going to lose points. If you finish before the cop, you're going to gain points as far as you go. So there's that as well. So the cop car is actually important because you do want these bonuses as you drive away. Also, there are shortcuts. So if you are losing too much ground on the cop, you can see there's shortcuts. However, you do pass these little nice bonuses. You're going to pass just to try to gain ground on that cop. So there's one right here. There's one right there. Just little shortcuts you pass up bonuses for, but you get to move a little quicker. So this game is going to be played until someone has completed 6 of these. That will trigger the last round. Or if someone were to finish this over here, the race where it gets to red, once you cross that finish line, that will also trigger endgame. The next round will be the last round. The only difference in the last round is that all players, the boss is going to still split it in 2, I believe. Let me check that real quick, that the boss still splits it in 2. Because I know you're going to trigger the dice no matter what. Both dice, both pairs. Unlike the rest of the game where you only trigger 1, even if you're not the thing. Let's see if they can. Each player uses the 4 dice to form 2 pairs independently. Okay, so that's a little correction right there. Glad I caught that before editing. You're gonna roll the dice, and then you're gonna have everyone gonna be able to do their own pairs if they want whatever they want, regardless if they're the boss. That's the only exception, is the last round of the game where you can do that. But that gives you an idea of how you play. You're just going to move these around also. So you can see that there's even a spot at the end where you can no longer do this. Every time, if you were to get here, then every 5 coins is 3 points instead. So it gets progressively more and more expensive to acquire these cards. But there you go. That's how you play a Bad Company.
All right. Thank you so much for teaching that, Nick. He's our resident teacher. He's a lot better than I am.
That one anyone could talk about, I think.
All right, let's get started. So if you didn't check out our last video, we kind of changed the format a bit. So we're going to go through different topics or headings and then discuss that just to keep things a bit more organized. So we'll start off with the game flow. What are your initial impressions and what's your overall thoughts?
I think the only negative here is maybe when you're trading off those necklaces, to remember that, oh, what do you have? You have the 2 gold, I have 3. That's the only type of what we would call fiddly type thing, where you're looking to see majority in different cards. Other than that, I think it's an overall plus. It's a pretty smooth game flow. You can easily teach the game, and it's pretty easy to follow.
Yeah, I think, especially if you have a knowledge base of Space Base, and you've already played that.
Machikoro, Space Base, Valeria Card Kingdoms. There's a few games that have these.
Yeah, where people, you're doing something and everyone's engaged at all times, even when it's not your turn. So yeah, I did think that the game flow was pretty straightforward. I thought it was nice that you're always kind of active because you're playing off of the dice that the leader is rolling.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the next topic, which is downtime. There is none really, because you're always interacting with every single turn. So the downtime is very a good positive here, because there is really none. Occasionally, I guess the only downtime is if somebody's considering buying things, but really that's nothing. You're active every turn.
Yeah, and it goes by quite quickly too.
What do you think about the gameplay in this genre?
I thought it was fun. I liked a game that isn't too rules heavy, doesn't require a lot of symbology that you have to check. Like, what does that mean? What does this mean? You're constantly referencing a card. It's nice to take a break from that and have an accessible game that people are able to play, that regardless of how many board games that they've had experience with, because people can understand the concept of like rolling dice and then looking at those values and scoring accordingly. That's pretty foundational. So, and the gameplay is fun. It's a lot of fun to roll dice and see what you can trigger off and upgrade um, your group. I guess your crime squad, your syndicate. And so, yeah, I like the gameplay overall. I think it's very clean, very straightforward, easy to teach, and an overall fun time.
I think for this type of game, I think it's strong because there are other things to consider. The sets you consider who you want to upgrade when, the loot, all these things, when to play your loot, when to trigger different things as far as, do you really want to go for the movement or do you really need resources here? Which cards do you want to draft? There is more to it than just rolling dice and picking the numbers you think you have the best odds. There's a little more to it. So I think the depth for this type of game is strong.
I agree.
Mechanics, I don't find anything boring here. I think everything's, you're involved. I think the mechanics are fine. It's tried and true. It's been done. It's nothing, revolutionary, but it does have a nice appeal to it with the art and all that. And you're upgrading. You guys are like putting on different layers of a character. It's kind of interesting. And, I think it's good for that.
Yeah, I think that the mechanics are pretty straightforward. I don't think that it's, anything too complicated, as I said before. There are, some things that you have to get your head around, like, okay, what happens when the police car gets past me or goes ahead of me? Am I arrested? Do I not get to go anymore? No, that's not the case. It's just about the bonuses that you're picking up along the track.
Yeah, you just don't get the bonuses. That's really it. And you want to beat them to the finish line if you can for points. All right, randomness. I mean, there's dice involved, so obviously there's going to be luck in the game.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that. That's part of the key mechanic. But you do have choices with those dice if you're the boss, and even if you're not, you do have a choice which one of the two you want to that the boss selected. So yes, there's randomness. Yes, you do have choices in that randomness though that occurs. So I don't think it's a negative. It's just the type of game it is. It's a random game. There's going to be randomness. There's dice involved. What more do you want?
Yeah, I think that says it all there. Replayability, when it comes to that, it's very high. You're rolling dice. You're never going to get the same results. You're not going to do necessarily the same path to victory, in a sense where, like, you're not going to get the same mission cards. You're going to have different heists, different things you're going to accomplish. You might decide to upgrade more one time that you play, and then another time maybe upgrade less, because it's not like you have to upgrade, but it puts you at a better position to win if you are upgrading your slots. And how quickly are you going to do that? So
I'll give it a neutral, just because I feel like the game's going to play the same every time. It's nothing that's going to, like, oh, I haven't seen that before. It's like the game's going to play the same every time. It's just a matter of, do you like that? Do you not? So replayability, I'm going to score a negative, or not negative, a neutral. It's hit or miss. You might think it doesn't have the replayability because you're going to do the same thing, or you might think it's great replayability because you like what it's doing and it's going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got scalability. This one's awesome.
Yeah.
For me, 1 to 6 players. We tried it at 5, 4, and 2, and I don't have an issue.
Yeah, there's no problems. It doesn't suffer from. You don't feel like you're lacking players when you're playing at 2, and you don't have to play as somebody else, or it's nice because there's no Atoma or somebody that you have to look out for when you're playing with 2 versus more.
Yeah, I would say even 4 and 5 are maybe a little bit better. Maybe a little bit, but it's still fun 2-player game. If you have 2 players, it's still a good one.
And Table Hog, like table size, how much landscape does it take up? I don't think it's too bad, but it depends on how many players you had sitting there, because there is a pretty long board, and then it's going to start to build up as you put the cards out. But I think a standard table would be fine. I don't think it doesn't have too many boards off, to the side and stuff.
I'm a neutral on this as well.
Pretty contained. Theme. So I loved the art. Right when I saw the art on it, I was intrigued by it. And the theme is fun. You're criminals. You're putting together some sort of crime syndicate. You're kind of some of the cards are funnier than others. They got some funny art to them, and yeah, I think that the theme is pretty good in this. I mean, we don't care about theme that much. It doesn't get us. It doesn't make us buy things. So we're not the best source for, I guess, giving opinions on theme. But I think that the theme is pretty good in this one.
Yeah, in a game that could have been any theme it wanted to be, I think this one works with the cop car chasing you and whatnot. Just to basically see if you get bonuses if you're moving fast enough. Give you another thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think the theme doesn't hurt it at all, so I'm gonna give it a mostly positive.
Yeah.
All right, we have table presence. We talked a little bit about that. The way it looks very good. The art's very good. It's appealing. The cards are very good. Everything table presence, I think, is a net positive here. Nothing's going to turn you away from the game. Like, oh, this looks kind of, for kids or whatever. It actually looks kind of interesting because you're upgrading characters. It looks cool that you're doing what you're doing looks cool. So
Yeah.
I think we're okay there.
Component quality is fair. It's nothing crazy. You're not getting, massive miniatures or something in this game. There's some wooden pieces, the little cars, the cardboard chits for the items that you can get, the stolen goods and stuff. But I think it's fair. I don't think that there's any quality issues with the cards or anything. They seem
Good
to be
artwork, but not gaudy production.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's not overproduced by any means.
Right.
Price and value. So we got this one. We had to wait a little bit. It was on a back order before it got delivered right to North America. So it was available in the Europe, but not here until January, right?
Yeah, it just got. So this has been in Europe for quite a while. We had played it before because the Dice Tower had it in their library. As far as price and value, I think we're at another neutral. I think what would it pay? I can't remember. Maybe $32. I think that's fair. Because if you like these type of games, now I guess the question we should ask here is if you have Space, if you have Machi Koro, if you have Valeria Card Kingdoms, do you need to own this? It's tough. Maybe not. If you like those games already, if you have Valeria, I think yes, this one's worth it. If you have Space, I don't know. I like this more than Space. I'll say that right now.
Yeah.
Andrew disagrees. Andrew likes Space more, and I can see why he would. They're both great games. It's really tough for me to say if you need all of it. I would say if you already like Space and you own it, maybe not. If you don't have Space, for myself, I like this one. If you have Valeria, I think I like both. I would keep both.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on that. I don't really remember very much. We played Space, we mainly play that online now. I don't think that there is a need to have both Space and Bad Company in your collection. I think you could choose one or the other, whatever one maybe a theme might get you, or the artwork, or
yeah, it's not they're the same game. They just scratch the same itch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The setup time, Nick, tell us about that.
I'm trying to think as far as this type of game. I think it's good. It's a quick setup. So I think this is a pro. The setup time in this game is strong. It doesn't take very long.
Yeah, there's not too many pieces and things you need to, now shuffle this deck and then shuffle that deck and put this deck on top of that. Yeah, it's pretty
straightforward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the game length. This really depends on the players, what they're picking when the numbers come up because of the dice rolls, because it is tied to how far you advance in that on the road.
Yeah. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40. So there's nothing negative about that. Actually, I think it can go longer. In a 2-player game, I felt like it ended quick for us.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting to build up, and that was kind of a negative for me. And I think that's actually the opposite of what I think of when I try to give scores for how long it's going to take, the game length. I think this game could be a little longer, actually. I think because I'm just starting to get my engine going finally, and it's over. So that's a little unfortunate.
Yeah, that happened to me. I had just got a necklace for one of the things having majority of it, and then I just upgraded and felt like, ooh, this one's nasty. This criminal when they activate is going to be great, and then it's over.
It feels like in Space you get to build up a little bit longer than you do in this one. Yeah. This one you don't get to upgrade as much as Space. You do. You get to upgrade all over in Space nonstop. It's a longer process, but this one, it cuts you off at a point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the complexity, I've already mentioned this a couple times. It's not very complex of a game. You're not going to be flipping through the rules, constantly grabbing the rule book and like, oh, but what do I do if this happens?
Yeah.
No.
There's a few symbols and
Yeah.
stuff, but you have the rule book there for that. There's an index for those symbols that it's like ongoing abilities that might have a kind of a weird symbol, a weird graphic design choice. But complexity itself, like teaching the game to new players, is going to be a breeze.
Yeah. Fun. How fun is it, Nick?
I think it's a fun game.
Yeah,
Do I think it's off the charts? Well, I think after a few more plays, I'm kind of cooled a little bit. Like, okay, this isn't amazing as I thought it was the first time. Because now, it's playing the same every time. But it is a fun game. It's definitely worth checking out at least once, because it is a fun game. My very first impression of it was extremely positive.
Yeah.
So fun is a positive here. I think it's a fun game.
I think it's very fun. I had a great first impression with it. I do agree that after you played a few times, you're like, okay, this is what this game is.
Yeah.
And the novelty, maybe as that subsides, you're kind of left, dropping on the fun factor. But it's not because it's not fun or it's a chore to play. It's just that your experience with it is,
Yeah, you already know what's
kind
happening
of
every
repeated.
time.
Yeah.
I do think it's more fun with more players now at this point.
Yeah.
So we can share the game with other players. It's not one I'm going to get rid of because I want to show new people this game because people are going to like it. And we've had that experience showing this to new players.
Yeah.
They really loved it. And that's the same experience I had when I first played it too. So, All right, let's give our scores, Vic.
Yeah. So overall, I gave this game an 8.2. I really like it. I have fun. I like sometimes to not have a brain-burning game. I say that a lot, but it's nice to have games that are, I don't want to say filler, but they're games that you can play in between heavier games that are just kind of a release. So it's fun.
Yeah, and it's not nearly as competitive as some other games. It's more of like a lighthearted type thing. And everyone's involved. So that's another reason I like it. I probably won't be requesting it too much at 2 players, but I'll definitely request it at 4 or 5, whatever. I'm going to give it an 8. I think it serves that purpose. It stays in the collection for that purpose. And when we have company and we want an easy game to teach or just play, if they already know it, I think our friends will come back to it. The ones we have shown, they're like, what was that game? And then maybe they'll buy it themselves.
Yeah.
It's a captivating game, especially on first play. It's very interesting. You like what it's doing, the smoothness and how interesting your choices are for this type of a dice rolling type game.
And there weren't a lot of takesies, backsies. So anytime I play a game and I'm like, oh, wait, I'm going to undo this. Like, it always makes for better time. So, that's our review of Bad Company. Let us know in the comments below. What's your preference? Bad Company, Space Base, or Machikoro, or something else I've never heard of for the same type of, or similar type of mechanism. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please click the like, thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel for more great game reviews. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.